Let's get right into it. This is a summary of press releases from Japanese electronics manufacturers on 3rd December. And first up, we have NEC. They're making some really big moves with AI, both in securing our physical world and in making our digital work a whole lot easier. Let's start with the security side of things. So picture this. You're walking into a high-security area, like an airport or a data center. But instead of stopping, fumbling for a badge, or waiting in line for a scan, you just keep walking. NEC has developed what they're calling a walk-through authentication system. The whole idea is to make top-tier security completely seamless and, well, invisible. And when I say top-tier, I mean it. The system is so precise it can instantly pick out one person from a database of over 100 million registered individuals. That is just a staggering scale. So how in the world do they pull this off? Well, they're combining their #1 ranked face and iris recognition technologies. An AI foundation model allows it to identify you from up to 3 meters away, even while you're walking. And it's smart enough to handle things like motion blur if you're wearing glasses, or even in tricky lighting. Best part? It apparently requires minimal hardware, which should make it much easier to install in more places. Okay, so from securing physical spaces, NEC's also tackling the digital workspace. They've just launched an AI agent called Kotomi Act, and its goal is to automate all those repetitive, frankly kind of boring digital tasks that eat up so much of our workday. Now, this isn't your standard automation script. The coolest part about Kotomi Act is you don't need to manually program it. It literally learns by watching a person do a task, like processing an invoice or filing an expense report. It then just automates it. And get this, on an industry benchmark, the AI actually had a higher success rate than a human. It's kind of like it creates this shared, super efficient brain that captures and uses a company's know-how automatically. All right, next up is Hitachi. While NEC is building new AI tools, Hitachi is getting a lot of attention for modernizing the core systems that businesses run on. They've got some news on an award and a huge new partnership. First, they've picked up a major honor. Hitachi Digital Services was named a market leader for something called legacy application modernization. So many big companies are running on old, clunky, outdated IT systems. Well, Hitachi has just been recognized as the best in the business at dragging that old tech into the modern era, making it ready for things like AI. And this quote from their CEO, Roger Liven, really says it all. For them, it's not just about updating some code. It's about fundamentally rethinking how a company can operate and compete. And that forward-thinking approach isn't just for software. Hitachi's Rail division is teaming up with Google Cloud, and they're planning nothing short of a total transformation of the railway industry. The goal here is pretty ambitious: smarter, more efficient, and eventually autonomous trains and rail systems. They're basically plugging Google's expertise in AI, cloud computing, and cybersecurity directly into Hitachi's deep knowledge of railways. This could totally change how transportation works on a global scale. Now, of course, all this amazing AI and cloud technology needs one thing to run: really, really powerful semiconductor chips. And that brings us perfectly to our next company, Canon. They're about to show off the tech that makes those next-gen chips possible. So, Canon is getting ready for a huge industry event called Semicon Japan. And they're not looking at the past, they are focused squarely on the future. With this explosion in things like generative AI, we need new and better ways to make chips, and Canon's basically saying, hey, we've got you covered. They're showing off solutions for the whole manufacturing process. On the front end, which is creating the circuits on the silicon, they're highlighting their nano imprint technology. You can think of it like an incredibly precise stamp that creates finer, more complex patterns than other methods. Then for the back end, they've got solutions for advanced packaging, how you stack these powerful chips together. And importantly, they're wrapping all of this in a commitment to sustainability with a goal of net zero emissions. Okay, so we've gone from the machines that make the chips to a brand new device that is absolutely packed with them. Let's talk about Sony, because they've just dropped the next evolution in their famous Alpha camera series. Say hello to the Alpha 7V. What's interesting here is that Sony isn't calling this a high-end, pro-only camera. They're positioning as the new standard for their basic full-frame models. The whole point seems to be to bring some of their most powerful, flagship features down to a camera that more creators can actually get their hands on. And the upgrades compared to the last version, the Alpha 7 IV, are, well, they're huge. We're talking a sensor that reads out information 4.5 times faster. a dedicated AI chip that improves subject recognition, for that super sticky autofocus by 30%. And then there's the speed. 30 frames per second. That's for continuous shooting, with full autofocus and auto exposure. And this is the big one. It's blackout free. That means when you're holding down the shutter button to track a bird in flight or a player on the field, the screen doesn't go black between shots. You see a perfectly smooth, uninterrupted view of what you're capturing. That is a massive game changer for any kind of action photography. All right, last but not least, let's turn to Toshiba. They're tackling a really important environmental problem that's kind of hidden away inside our energy grid. So first, a little background. All that big, high-voltage equipment you see in electrical substations needs a special gas inside it to stop electricity from arcing and causing short circuits. For decades, the go-to gas has been something called SF6. It works great as an insulator, but it has a huge downside. If it leaks into the atmosphere, its global warming potential is about 25,000 times more potent than carbon dioxide, just an incredibly nasty greenhouse gas. And that is exactly where Toshiba's new innovation comes in. They've created and are now selling a key piece of that substation equipment, a gas-insulated bus bar that completely gets rid of SF6. Instead, it uses an environmentally safe gas mixture made from natural origin gases. No more risk of leaking that super potent greenhouse gas. And this isn't just for some small local project. This new technology is tough enough to be used in Japan's highest voltage electrical grids, all the way up to 550 kilovolts. This means it can be deployed right at the core of a nation's power infrastructure, making a real, measurable difference for the climate. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a like.